Good morning. I am Summer Lowry. I am on fire for change. Thank you for being here. My liberation is within me and all around me. Sorry. I get excited and sometimes want to turn life into a Broadway musical. My son really hates that. But also is starting to recognize that he cannot even kill my vibe. So yes, what are we talking about today, change makers? What are we talking about today, fellow liberators? What are we doing? What are we doing? What's on your heart? What's on your mind? Talk to me. Okay. I see a question in the chat. And the question is, how do I know when I'm in alignment with my soul's purpose? Whew. Well, naturally, I cannot answer that question for you, because your liberation is within you. However, I can share with you how I learned, and how I came into alignment with my soul's purpose. And if you can draw some wisdom from that, from hearing about that experience, then maybe that will, be of service to you on your journey. It is a journey, with twists and turns and ups and downs. It is not a linear path. And so that is, the first thing I will say. If you are thinking that there is some sort of end goal for your soul's journey, or there is some sort of arrival point, then I would, just encourage you to liberate yourself from that, and think of it as, you're looking at a giant map, right? And what you are looking at is the dot that says you are here. When you move and you travel and you journey, you will still be looking at a dot that says you are here, right? Wherever you go, there you are. We know this, and we've heard that, a million times, almost to the point of it being cliche, but we still want to have this, this movie ending, right? Everything that we learn in life is linear. And it's so crazy, because I literally remember in high school, do you ever like flash back? Do you ever flash back to a moment on your journey where you remember? It's like what happens is I will, I'll be sitting here, I'm in my car, right? And maybe I'm thinking about time, and I'm starting to think about time in a different way. And then it will occur to me that this is not the first time I've thought about this. And I will literally, like my brain, my energy, my spirit, whatever, will flash back to a moment. And when I think about time, I flash back to this moment in high school. I literally can remember the exact spot where I was standing. If I went to my old high school right now, I could literally stand in that spot, because that's how specific this is. Now, what I don't remember, I think I might have been having a conversation with someone. That's how I remember it. That I was having a conversation with someone about time. I don't remember who, but I have a couple of ideas of who I might have been talking to about this topic at that point when I was in high school. And I went to a Catholic high school, and we had our, Catholic classes, Christian womanhood. I just laugh because, anyway, another topic for another time. But we also had to study Eastern religions. We had to as part of our theology class, we studied different religions of India. We studied Hinduism. We studied Buddhism. We studied readings from, the Tao Te Ching. We read the Tao of Pooh. We read The Road Less Traveled, as I think we were sophomores or juniors. And I remember the teacher sharing with us, like, that someone, said to him, like, what, you're having high school kids read The Road Less Traveled? Like, they won't even get it. Like, and he was like, bullshit. Yes, they will. And some maybe didn't, but I certainly did. And, that really resonated with me and spoke to me. But I think it was probably one of those classes that, must have sparked this conversation about time with a fellow classmate. And I remember, like, trying to explain essentially that, there's infinite space and time, but we are finite beings. Like, our brain, we're finite bodies. We're not finite beings. And our brain, our body can really only comprehend, and this is me talking as like a 15-year-old, our mind can only comprehend linear. Like, we can only comprehend beginning, middle, end. But really, that's not how things work. Like, time is infinite. We just literally can't wrap our brain around it because we think in a linear way. And, and everything we see in our life is like, okay, stages, progression, birth, learning how to walk, learning to do all the things, and then, adulting, and then you die, right? And so that's like what our brain sees. What we miss is, that we're actually surrounded by cycles. Like, everywhere in nature, we're surrounded by cycles. The earth orbiting the sun, the moon orbiting the earth, the plants. Like, we say in the winter that the it dies, like, things die. Like, no, they don't actually. Like, if it was dead, it wouldn't be able to sprout, new leaves, new flowers, whatever, when the weather gets warm again. Right. And obviously, yes, I know there's annuals and perennials and blah, blah, blah. But, we even with, the water cycle, right? Like the rain and the snow melts and it, flows down the mountain into the river, and the river flows into the ocean. And, yeah. So what does this have to do with finding your soul's purpose? I have no idea. I just started talking. I have no idea. I go down rabbit holes and, and different things like that. And then hopefully something that I said made you think about something and you got something that you needed. I don't know. I'm here on my journey, people. I don't, but seriously, when you know. You literally know when you know. You can pretend that you don't know. Because, and I think when you know, and then sometimes the ego comes in and starts questioning what you know. The ego comes in and starts trying to protect or play games or get you to play by certain games or rules or whatever. That's all a defense mechanism. Like, that is all, all the ego is. We're born with no ego, right? So the ego gets constructed, and how does the ego get built, right? Well, it gets built like one little Lego at a time, from, when we start realizing that, or I don't want to say realizing, but when we start thinking, because there's no separateness. We're not separate. We're not separate beings, right? We know that. If you're listening to this, you know that. If you're finding yourself wanting to argue with whether or not we're separate beings, like, you should probably listen to a different podcast, because like that's like a premise here. Like, we're already working from that belief. And so we're rolling with that. Like, if you're not on board for that, you're listening to the wrong podcast. But at somewhere along the journey, this is how I get down rabbit holes, by the way. And then I'm like, what the frick was I talking about? Okay. Somewhere on the journey, the ego begins to get constructed, because we start thinking, because other egos around us that have already been constructed and developed, they start, they start building our ego. Now, are they consciously building our ego? No. They're acting in their own patterns, they're, whatever. And so we start seeing that, and we look around and we go, oh, okay, that person is yelling at me, and then we start, so the brain, what the brain then does is it strategizes. So you're either going to shrink, which most, children, like, that's what they're going to do. Like, if the being that is screaming at them is an adult, larger, that's just animal instinct. Like, okay, cower in fear, right? Until we start to get a little bigger. And that's when you see, like, people, like, people will snap, like people who have been abused their whole lives, yelled at their whole lives. They've been, and then they realize, like, wait, I can overpower you now. I don't have to take this shit. And so they, they'll snap. I snapped my fingers and a cat jumped on the roof of my car, like, out of nowhere. That was so funny. I'm sitting in my car recording this. Hello, kitty. Hello. How are you? You're terrifying me. Okay. The cat is like, who is this bitch talking to? Is she talking to me? You talking to me? You talking to me? Anyway, so people snap, because, like, it's all in that, oh, I constructed my ego to be this way, this little weak, especially boys, right? They will eventually realize they're bigger than you, and they snap if they've been, abused, or, all of those things. Whereas a lot of times women, we will just continue to, like, take everything on and believe that, like, whatever the story is that you're telling us is who we are. Boys, they believe that's who they are, but they don't like it. So then they'll lash out and, whatever. And that's not, true for all boys, nor is it true for all girls. And, but I think on the whole, we can kind of see those patterns, based on gender to some degree. And so the ego gets constructed, brick by brick, from different incidents in life, right? People tell you, okay, you grew up in this family and we practice this religion. We eat these foods. This is the music that we listen to. This is the neighborhood we live in. This is the kind of car that we drive. This is, all of these things that, like, begin to make up your supposed identity, right? But when you came into the world, what were you? You were just pure being. You were breath, you were blood, you were cells, you were energy. And that's what you are. You're energy. Right? You're just being, until all of these things get constructed. And finding your soul's purpose, I believe, is when you get in touch with that knowing. Okay, you might see I don't know, you'll get signs around you, right? And then you'll have a knowing, like, oh, a flash of something, might give you a sign of something you need to do. You might have a craving for solitude and silence. You might feel drawn to someone or something without really logically knowing why. That's your knowing speaking to you. And then what happens a lot of the times is the ego comes in, right, to protect and to go, oh, no. Like, this is what we know. Like, you're not supposed to talk to that person over there because we do X, Y, and Z. And that's where we fit in. And so then, we go, wait, am I the second thought or am I the first, the first experience of that knowing? And of course, I mean, we're the knowing, right? But we're the knowing navigating also the egoic experience. Like, we're here to learn how to navigate the egoic experience so that we can come full circle, just like all of the other plants and all of the other cycles, so that we can come full circle and return to our being and our knowing. Anyway, that's what I believe. So talk to me. Thoughts, feelings, reflections, dissonance, resistance. I want to hear what you have to say. So talk to me.